welcome to another Radda Review. I'm Michelle, the founder of Radda, and I recently had the pleasure of interviewing classical pianist, teacher, and Radda reviewer Avguste Antonov. Avguste is originally from Bulgaria and has studied piano performance in Bulgaria, France, and the United States, earning degrees from University of Kansas, Conservatoire de Bordeaux, and the Higher Education Center for Music and Dance in Bordeaux. Since April 2019, Avguste has been living and teaching in France. Starting in September 2020, he will be professor of piano and accompaniment at the Conservatoire de Chateaubriand. He's a dedicated performer of 20th and 21st century music, especially American living composers, and has performed US and world premieres at venues across North America. Over the years, he has worked with composers Carter Pan, Raina Mernak, Till Mine, Matthew Saunders, William Bollinger, Robert Rowland, and others. Avguste has performed recitals all over the United States and has been featured as soloist with many ensembles including the San Jose State University Wind Symphony, the University City Symphony, the Alton Symphony Orchestra, the Tulsa Camerata, and more. In addition to performing, Avguste is an active lecturer and adjudicator. He is a member of the International Academy of Performing Arts and Sciences and adjudicates the Encore Piano Competition. He has presented lectures and or adjudicated for several different music associations throughout the United States. In this interview, Avguste and I talk about many aspects of his musical career, what role competitions have in piano pedagogy, how to build a successful career in music, how COVID-19 is impacting the music industry, and much more. We hope you enjoy, and be sure to stick around until the end for details about the first Radda Rise International Piano Competition. So starting at the very beginning, when did you start piano? What got you started doing lessons?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to meet you finally through video. So I started the piano at the age of 5 back in Bulgaria. So I'm born in Bulgaria. And so and from the age of, well, from the moment I was born to the age of 10, I was living in Bulgaria. So I started there at the age of 5. What got me into it, really? I mean, when you start that young, it's more parents and family than anything else. My whole family is musician. The only thing is I didn't get into the cello. I tried, failed miserably. Well, from what my mom tells me, I failed miserably. So I'm at the piano.
Okay. And then, so you pursued lessons for a while. Was there a turning point where you decided, like, this is what I'm going to do? I'm going to do this professionally?
So the real turning point was when I was 14, 15 years old. If my memory is good, I went to a concert of the Orchestre de Bordeaux in France. So because my mom and my stepfather were members of that orchestra, I had the opportunity to hear great pianists. So I went to one concert of Andre Watts playing Rachmaninoff Second, and that hooked me. That was it. So you could potentially say that for the age of 14, 15 was when I really got going for a career. But up to that point was just I was doing things like homework, basically, you know. So.
And so going to your own teaching now, what kind of students do you teach? Do you teach like younger students or more advanced?
So I teach all students.
Okay.
All students, including beginners. Back in the United States, I used to teach at a school called the Master Touch School of Music in Grapevine, Texas, down the DFW area. And so I taught there for, well, 10 years. 10 years. And then when I moved out here, so I've been here back in France for 1 year. So I'm teaching at a school called Couleur Music. And I'm getting as well my teaching diploma, my French teaching diploma, because the US diplomas, the university diplomas, are not valid out here.
Really? I didn't know that.
They're not. You have the equivalents. You can get the equivalents of the bachelor master. That's not an issue. However, the teaching diploma that you need to teach at the conservatory level is a different one. So I'm finishing right now a year of doing that to get the equivalence. But to come back to your question, I'm teaching all ages, from early age, 6, 7 years old, all the way to adults, amateur, and obviously professionals as well.
Okay, and then so let's go back to like your performance career now. So what have been some of the most exciting projects you've worked on? Any memorable performances you had?
Man, lots. Where to start? And how much time do you got? No. There are lots of exciting performances I've done over the years. Lots of projects that I've done and have coming. Just to give 2 examples, one performance well, 2 performances really. One was in San Jose, California, with the San Jose State University Wind Symphony. We played a piano concerto. Composer was Carter Pan. He wrote a concerto for piano and wind symphony called Concerto Logic.
Okay.
And that was a very important performance. Marked me very much because, one, it's a tough one. It's a tough concerto, and just the amount of time it took to get it done in the performance, obviously. That's one. A second performance would be, in Tulsa, Oklahoma, with my mom. We did a piano trio that Carter Pan wrote as well. That was with the Tulsa Camerata. And then a third performance. Now I'm talking. Third performance. I did a recital as well in Kansas City with my stepfather, Lawrence Fig. So those 3 performances out of the many, I could cite all of them, really, all of them, all locations. But you're asking for specific. That would be the 3 specific out of countless. As far as project goes, one project that I'm working on right now is the recording of the piano music of an American composer called David Auterman. So I started working on his music. I'm supposed to record it at some point this year in France, in Bordeaux. So that's an exciting project that I have going on in addition to all of the concerts.
So whenever you're in the process of preparing for performing or getting on stage, what's your favorite part of the process?
Well, you have to first love to practice.
Yeah.
You have to, whether it's a concert, whether it's a competition, you have to love to practice. There's no way out of that one. So that's important. Now, obviously the preparation is very important. The preparation, and I'm not just talking about the practicing. I'm talking as well about mentally. Especially when you're doing concertis or very complex solo works. It's important to be in good mindset for that. Another thing in that, I think, you as a pianist, you probably know that as well as I do. We all get stressed out.
Yeah, of course.
We all do. To a certain extent, some of us control it better than others, but we all get stressed out. So one thing that I like to do, and I'm not sure if that answers the question, but one thing that I like to do right before I enter on stage, is an exercise, a breathing exercise It's part of the neuropsychology studies. So basically, it's an exercise where you close your eyes, you take deep breaths, and think of something, someone, or on an experience that was positive to you. Traditionally, for us as performers, well, we're thinking about a positive performing experience. So that's something that I like to do. I was taught that by a composer called Michael Colgrass. I'm not sure if you know of him. Michael Colgrass, he actually passed away about a year, 2 years ago or something. He passed away. He wrote a book called Lessons with Kumi that is actually giving specific exercises to fight performance anxiety.
Okay.
Whether it's performing, speaking, whatever. So he taught me that, and I like to use it. It's very useful, and it's very useful to do it to kind of build a wall. Between, to build your own, cage where you're all by yourself when you're playing with the orchestra, and so I like to do that right before a performance. So
yeah. And so we're doing a competition through Radda. How important do you think competitions are for young musicians?
That's a good question. Tough answer. I do think it's important for kids of all ages, whether they're 6, 7, or even, when we're talking high school, college level, that type of stuff, to get into competitions. Why? Well, there are a few reasons. One is, it gets them that stress. It gets them to practice and hopefully learn something within a timeline, in a specific repertoire that is demanded, and you don't have any choices but to do it. And it gets them to play in front of people other than their teachers or family or whatever. So that's one. The other thing is, it can serve as an evaluation, in a sense that, already the judges are going to evaluate them. That's one. But the teachers can also evaluate and adjust their future pedagogy based on what they have seen, heard, or read. So to come back to the example of the kid that is absolutely not comfortable getting on stage, hates it. Well, in that case, a teacher could potentially have him play more in front of people, just to get him through that hump of, man, I'm not comfortable, I don't want to. Well, you do it, and it becomes a second nature, almost. So it's important. It's important. At the same time, a competition is not the be-all, end-all. It's not because you lose a competition or you play second, third, or whatever that you suck. And at the same time, it's not because you win a competition that you're the best in the world. And but at the same time, it's good to push them, while also staying positive and reminding them that competitions are just another evaluation, another way for them to get better. It's not a failure. It's not you're not gonna become Ashkenazi by winning a competition, and you're not gonna become zero because you haven't won it. So it's that there's various thoughts that have to go through the process. But yeah, it's very important. Competitions are important, absolutely.
Yeah. And I think it's really important for, even if they don't end up doing music, it helps them out in their lives overall, because it gets them up in front of people. So it can help, like, you know, their public presence and things like that.
You know, it's funny that you mentioned that, because that's probably the thing that kids that do not become professionals, and when I say professional, I'm not talking concert musician. I'm talking professionals in orchestra, teachers, whatever. Those that don't do that, well, yeah, when they get in front of human resources for a job, or which is, you know, normally one person, but if they get in front of a, you know, they get in a meeting and they have to present the next best internet thing, or the next best vehicle, or whatever, yeah, that's gonna serve them, because they have over the years built the experience of going in front of people, being judged. Whether it's a fair judgment or not, that's besides the point, because we all know, we all know how it works as far as that goes. But yeah, it's very important. Yeah, that's one part that's very important for those kids. Absolutely.
Yeah. What's the best way to create a successful career in music?
That's that's an interesting and tough question. Obviously, first of all, you have to do musical studies. You can't, and that's gonna get me in trouble as well a bit, what I'm gonna say here, but you can't study music as fun in amateurish way and hope for a career. That does not work. So obviously the studies. Now after that, after the studies, obviously you got two camps. You get camp one that goes by and we just talked about it, and swears by competitions. Winning the big one is gonna make the big career, winning Tchaikovsky, winning Pavarotti for singing or whatever. Yeah. It's gonna make the big one. You've got the second camp, which I tend to be more toward, which basically says, well, competitions are one thing, they don't make a career. They give you a few concerts because you won that competition, they don't make a follow-up. Yeah. So you got those two things going on. I personally don't think competitions are that much needed for a career. Okay. I mean, at least in piano. Yeah. I'm not referring to voice. I'm not referring to strings. No, I'm referring specifically to piano. I don't think you need a major competition or any competition at all to get a career. From the moment you perform regularly, you build that performance, that stage presence, that performance resume, and all of that stuff. Now, what's important is the PR, public relations. But it's a subject that not many schools, and I'm talking both United States and Europe. Well, I don't know that so much about Europe because I haven't been back that much, but specifically United States, not that many schools teach about the music business, the side of the music business. And what I say with the music business, I'm talking website, PR pictures, or what we call public relation pictures, high resolution pictures, a good curriculum vitae, repertoire list, a good, potentially very good videos. I know some of my videos are not the best, but they've been taken live, so I get an excuse on that one. But videos, MP3s, all of that put into a website. Because when you reach to a presenter, and that includes every instrumentalist, a pianist, voice, doesn't matter. When you reach a presenter, when you send them an email to introduce yourself and inquire about a performance opportunity. Well, guess what? They don't want to have their email full of PDF files, MP3s, and YouTube links.
Yeah.
They would rather have one link where they can see everything about you from A to Z, or whatever it's public, hear you, see you, ideally see you live, but if they can't see you live, might as well see you in pictures in that fashion. So that's very important. The other aspect is communication, social communication, specifically Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. What am I forgetting? LinkedIn. LinkedIn. I know some people are doing TikTok nowadays. Social networks are very important because one, you build your network. Well, for example, us, you and me, we found ourselves on Facebook. Well, yeah, you build your network, you share your content, your pictures, your whatever MP3s, it gets following. And many presenters are also looking at the official Facebooks, at the artist Facebook, Instagram as well, if there's one. So communication is important with the audience, with presenters, obviously. So yeah, to me, those things are more important than winning the big one.
Yeah.
But it varies with each person. You may speak to, I don't know, you may speak to, well, Andre Watts, for example. He may tell you the opposite. Well, yeah, each person is different. But to me, those items are more important than the big one.
Yeah.
Especially when we know, and I don't think that's a secret for anybody, that sometimes the judging competition can be very political. And we'll leave it at that. So yeah, that to me is one of the ways, the best way really to do it. Get performing, get your website, start reaching to presenters.
Yeah.
If you look at the US, at the United States, the universities, there are probably anywhere between 5 and 6 universities really that do that type of curriculum. One is Juilliard. Juilliard does it quite a bit. One of their former student counselor wrote a book about that. The book is called Beyond Talent, Creating a Successful Career in Music. It's written by Angela Miles Beeching.
Okay.
So I believe she is a former Juilliard or something from that area, student counselor that wrote it. Now it's on its third edition of publication. So yeah, it does. Well, like I was saying earlier, you can count on one hand how many universities really do it. I mean, some have classes on music business, but they don't cover the details. So.
Yeah, I was lucky to go to UNT because the capstone class is actually music entrepreneurship. And then they're also the head of the music business department there. She's starting an MBA program for musicians, which is new this year, which will be really exciting. So something else we haven't talked about yet. What kind of music do you primarily perform? Do you stick with like a certain composer, a certain genre?
So in 2008, when I left TCU and I was able to fully focus on a performing career, I had a choice to make. Either I stick to classical romantic, baroque, and then I get compared to Ashkenazi, Viardo, you name it. Or I switch to a repertoire that very few people know. We're very few to do it, and nobody can compare me. I'm my own man.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I decided to go for the second option. So since 2008, I do primarily modern music, American living composers. I do expand right now to French composers, obviously. Um, so that's been my bread and butter for over 10 years now, 11 years. Now the thing with Europe, and that's where the cultural difference comes in as well. Um, in Europe, they are, it's especially you know, as you get in here, as you get back into the music business in Europe, selling American music for people who don't know it, very difficult.
Really?
Very difficult. Well, because you know, people don't know it, people have never heard of it. In the United States, yeah, you hear the name of the composers, you never heard of the music, but you hear it. So and that's something I've been wanting to do for a long time as well. So now I'm back here, I am switching gears again, in a sense of I'm still doing American living composers. That has not changed, but I'm adding romantic music that has not been played before.
Okay. Like,
So the composers that are romantic, well dead, that's not the issue, but their music hasn't been performed as much as others. For example, composer Bortskevich.
okay.
Bortskevich, Russian composer, I believe. Or I've seen some of the bios calling it Ukrainian and German. So I'll stick to the Russian that way. It's very simple. Bortskevich has written a bunch of concertis for piano, has written sonatas, fantasies, ballad, you name it. So that, for example, is one composer that I am adding. And then I'm also adding versions of pieces that, well, orchestral pieces that are done for solo piano only. For example, and you probably noticed, Adamsel, the Warsaw Concerto. Well, normally it's for piano and orchestra. Well, I'm doing the piano solo version, just the piano. Or Gershwin, Rhapsody in Blue. Normally for piano orchestra, piano band, I'm doing the piano solo, just piano version. So I'm adding those stuff to make it more interesting for the audience than just unknown for them American composers.
Yeah. So have you had any professional pursuits aside from classical music, or have you always been involved in music?
Outside of music, I do chess. I play chess. I'm not gonna say professionally, in a sense that I'm not officially a professional chess player, but I do competitive chess. So I do play for a team in Bordeaux. I travel all over France for tournaments, to play in tournaments for the Chess Federation. And then I also do video games. And it's more fun than work, but sometimes it can turn into work. And you know, the video games part, that's how I got into the technology. That's how I learned about doing websites, about, well, cameras, about microphones, about all of those stuff that are so useful nowadays. You know, that's how I learned it, because of the video games. So yeah, chess and video games.
Wow. Is there anything else that you would like to share with the audience?
Well, you know, we might as well talk about the COVID and how it impacts our business.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, you as a teacher, as a pianist, you're well placed to speak about it as well, because you've been teaching through online means as well, aren't you?
Yeah. Most of my students have moved to Zoom or FaceTime, so we've been making it work that way. Yeah,
exactly. Same out here. Yeah, COVID is man, that's a weird situation. Well, weird in a bad sense, in a sense, I mean, if anybody had told me that half of the world would be shut down for 2+ months, not counting the travel, I would have said they're crazy, but yeah, the COVID is impacting us, all of us in the industry, whether it is painters, any art, obviously music. It's impacting us because we can't get on stage. You can't have an audience of more than 10 people. Good luck with that. And even then, good luck having them move.
Yeah.
So it is impacting us, but it's forcing us to also reinvent what we do, how we do things. Now, all of us are starting to get on the online content bandwagon in a say, well, what I'm talking about, the videos, YouTube, Patreon, all of that stuff. All of that stuff was done before by variety artists, rock and roll, pop stars, rap stars. But now we're forced to reinvent ourselves and do it.
Yeah,
I mean, I just started my own Patreon page like last week. That people can find me on Patreon now as well. Patreon, basically, do you know about Patreon?
Yeah, I know what it is, but maybe you can explain it.
Do you know how it works?
I know how it works.
Okay. Well, for our listeners who don't know how it works, so Patreon is a content website, basically allowing for anyone, any person to create content and get paid for it, in a sense of getting support by viewers, listeners, whatever, on a monthly basis. So that was used before by rap stars, rock stars, you name it. Now more and more musicians, classical musicians, are beginning to use it because of the health situation, the social distancing regulations, the travel restrictions if you're in Europe or if you're trying to go out of in between oceans. So that's one thing. And then the other thing about the COVID, we are some of us were thinking that the COVID is going to basically separate those that want to be in a business as a presenter and performer from those that have no business being in here.
Yeah.
Because the financial situation is going to be such that it's going to be rough for everyone for a few years. Concerts are not going to restart in person probably until September at the earliest. I know some major companies in the US, I believe the Kennedy Center is planning on not doing anything until 2021.
Yeah.
I know some of the other ones out there are not planning anything until 2021 at the earliest.
Yeah.
But for other presenters, the smaller venue in between, I know it's not going to start until September at the earliest. Out here in Europe, we're not going to restart our seasons until September at the earliest. So yeah, COVID is a situation that I think everybody needs to be aware of. Follow the guidelines of in the case of the US, the CDC or the World Health Organization, in spite of what your dear president might say, not to get into politics. Follow the guidelines, wash your hands, social distancing, COVID is an important subject to always bring, especially right now.
Yeah, I think and also in the midst of all the chaos, there's also, you can find some kind of excitement too that's going to change so many industries, especially the classical music industry, because I feel like for so long everybody's kind of been stuck in doing everything the old way and following tradition. And now it's
what do you mean by excitement? What are you talking?
So
what are you referring to?
How everything's moving online, so there's going to be a lot more opportunity for people to really expand what they're doing, and they're not going to be so confined by what they think they should be doing traditionally.
Well, that's true. The other thing to look at it is the fact that, and that's one potential positive in a way, out of the COVID is that because of the financial situation, many presenters are going to be facing. Because let's be honest, majority of the presenters, unless you're the Kennedy Center, unless you're Cleveland Symphony or the Philadelphia or New York, majority are going to have financial issues. So one of the potential positive, again, in between, it would be potentially that presenters would need to look at less known artists as guests than the traditional Ashkenazi, Argerich, that type of stuff. Because financially, I mean, there are just so many people that can afford to pay Ashkenazi, for example, or Andre Watts, or Wayne Marshall, or any of those, of Yardo. Yeah. So many are gonna potentially be having to look at less known, but with the same quality. Yeah. Because that's the thing. All of us, we all have the quality, but not the name recognition as Andre Watts, obviously. Yeah. So that could potentially be another turning point of the after COVID.
Yeah. And it's also going to force people to get a lot more creative too, with, being in these financial constraints. They're going to have to think outside of the box. So like, I know, like, not music related, but there's some farms that I saw that are, you can pay for the option to have like one of their animals join your Zoom meetings. And so even like,
are you serious?
Even agriculture is finding out ways how to make money online, which I think is incredible. So it's really gonna.
So let me get this right. Let me get this right. You pay them online, and they put that animal on Zoom.
Yeah, with people who have their company Zoom meetings, you can have like a goat join your meeting. So
that's a new one. That's a new one.
I know, but it's just gonna. I think it's brilliant because people are really gonna go outside the box.
But one thing it's always going to be an issue now, especially for the after COVID, is how, to come back to music and arts, how are you going to do a social distancing in a performance hall?
Yeah.
That's worthy. I mean, how are you going to put the orchestra on stage that's supposed to be under social distancing guidelines? I mean, if you take the Kennedy Center, I mean, they have 4,000 seats out there in the Kennedy Center or something of that nature. I mean, social distancing would put them down to maybe 2, if they're lucky. I mean, one seat empty between. I mean, like the airplanes, one seat empty basically. But so that's another issue. Out here, and I'm not sure if you get the news, if you follow the music news out of Europe. Out here, the Rhine Opera out in Germany has restarted rehearsals.
Really?
Already. Oh yeah. The way they've done it, according to what I've seen on pictures, is they've put big those sound barriers that you put in front of the trumpets in orchestra sections. They're all their own small spaces, and they're all spread out.
Wow.
I don't know. That's the tough part for orchestra. How they're gonna fit? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's the tough one.
Yeah, like I said, it'll be interesting and exciting in a way to see what people come up with. Okay, well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure talking to you. I really enjoyed hearing about your life and all of your musical pursuits. So thank you again. And everybody, you can find him on Radda to review your piano performances. So thank you again.
Thank you for having me. Thank you very much.
Thank you for watching, and we hope you enjoyed that fantastic interview. Avguste is also one of the reviewers involved in the first Radda International Piano Competition. So I'd like to share a little bit of detail about that. Our competition is dedicated to fostering the musical growth of rising pianists through unique educational opportunities. So aside from just cash prizes, we're passionate about providing an experience through which young pianists can really enhance their musical careers. Each applicant will be provided with a choice of a free Radda review of their competition recordings, along with the option to resubmit new recordings based on the feedback. So this means that you get detailed critiques from one of our expert pianists before judges ever see your recordings. And you also have a choice between 6 different languages for your review: English, Spanish, Portuguese, Chinese, German, or French. After the competition, you'll also have After the competition, we also have additional educational opportunities, such as post-competition live chats with the judges about your performances, and also they'll be offering ongoing mentorship to some of the applicants. So we can't wait to receive your application, and good luck to everybody.